Good gesagt. Zev has a few years on you, right?
A couple.
What do you mean a couple?
Actually, a couple decades. Not decade.
No,
and a
you
half.
told me you were going to be what?
He's a decade and a half.
That's right. That's a considerable amount.
That's a lot.
Did somebody see?
Yes, yes. Ruvain Podolsky.
Mr. Kipperman.
Graduate.
Why?
Graduated.
Pesci.
Why?
Okay.
Sorry.
No, he wasn't. It was
Irwin.
Irwin was the gabbai. Irwin, the trick is Tom, you can't stand that long. How are you? Absence makes the heart grow fond. I had to go home.
So, do we have a new bulletin or not? Okay.
Time.
Yeah. Okay, gentlemen, I'm going to start learning sponsors.
Don't forget Rube's smile.
Oh, it's right here.
Okay.
Okay, learning sponsors. Many year of learning, many friends of Stephen Vigdor, Zecha Nishmat Simcha Melech Ben Meir Halevi. Friends of Marcy Kurtz, in memory of her great niece Leah Bracha. Isaac and Evelyn Blachor, in memory of his sister Chaya Rachel Bas Isser. Friends of Leonie Meiselman, Leah Sabra Bas Chanok Zundel. 2 months of learning by the Friends of Milton Miller in honor of his second bar mitzvah. A month of learning by Charlie Gelfenstein in memory of his mother Dacia Gilbas Meir Halevi and his father Meir Ben Yaakov. Chaim and Phyllis Reese in memory of his father Mordechai Ben Yom Tov Lipa. Isaac and Evelyn Blachor in memory of his mother Zissel Bas Chaim Yitzchak. Ron and Susan Podolsky in memory of his mother Fredel Bas Shraga Fiver. Phyllis and Chaim Reese in memory of her father Pinchas Ben Abraham. Since today is Ron's mother's yortzeit, at the end of the shiur we'll do Rabbanan Kaddish, everybody. So please note that. Okay. A week of learning, Susan Fruchter Kramer in memory of her father Moshe Ben Yechiel Michel. And that is it. I don't have any days of learning otherwise. May Shomas Haviliyah, Crank Rafia Velta Yeshua Shem Latzliah, and L'chol B'nai Israel a good Gebenchtjahr.
Amen.
Okay. Okay, we're starting basically on the top of Mem Aleph, Amud Aleph, right? And I want to start today okay. I want to start with the following psukim. Okay, First of all, to understand the beginning part of the Amud, we need to point out, some of us have Art Scroll that cites that in the notes, but for those who don't, okay, we have the following pasuk: Tachat asher lo avareta et Hashem Elokecha b'simcha uvetuv levav merov kol. Okay, so notice that's the right. Then the next part, the next pasuk: V'avareta et oivecha asher yishalchenu Hashem bach b'ra'av uvetzama uve'erom uvechoser kol v'natan al barzel al tzavarecha ad hishmido otach. Okay, and the English, so you will serve, I'm just doing pasuk 48 here. So you will serve your enemies upon Hashem, upon whom your enemies, whom Hashem will send against you in hunger and in thirst, in nakedness, and without anything. He will put an iron yoke on your neck until he destroys you. And so the Gemara cites this pasuk, okay, and part of the pasuk, part of the verse is b'choser kol, without anything. Okay, without anything. That was the phrase. Okay. So
You already said you wouldn't have food, you wouldn't have clothes.
right. So what does it mean to include that in the statement? Okay. Amar Rabbi Ami Amar Rav. Says Rabbi Ami Rav. Below ner u below shulchan. Now this compares, remember, to the previous statement we saw on the bottom of the previous daf, where it said when somebody goes into exile, what do they need? It says zoner ukara ushatiach. Okay, and we said that even though there's a question on the girsa of ner or ned, lamp or canteen, nevertheless, let's go with ner at this point without a lamp, because that basically connects now. So what does it mean without anything? Okay, if the pasuk said without food, etc., etc., is there more chairs? Should be.
There should be, it says without a table.
No, no, I'm saying in here in the room. Okay. All right. Is there 2 or 3 chairs there in that basket?
There are 3 seats I can see.
Right. Okay. What happens? So it says now, below ner, without a lamp, below shulchan. In other words, not only will you be lacking that an opportunity to have light or something to make foodstuffs, you would even have no place even to sit, to eat, to things like that. No, not yet. Okay. Rav Chisda Amar, says Rav Chisda, what does it mean without anything? Below Isha, without a wife, implying that a person who is lacking a wife lacks a certain amount of joy in their life. No comment, Michael. Rav Sheshet Amar, says Rav Sheshet below Shemesh, but here it's below Shamash, without a servant. In other words, without a butler or an assistant, without somebody to assist them if they have certain
He's
needs.
kind of funny. He doesn't have food, he doesn't have clothes, but he does have a servant.
Okay, so that's the point. Rav Nachman Amar says Rav below De'ah, okay, without basic mental faculties. Okay, that's the point. In other words, he lacks his presence of mind. Tana, and we have a Braita below Melech or below Ravav. According to the Braita, he does not have salt, nor does he have grease.
Oil.
Okay, oil. Well, that's based on whether you use the English for Art Scroll or a different translation.
Calls it grease, but it's
I know,
oil.
it's for cooking, right? The point is the necessary items, again, to prepare your food. Amar Abaye, says Abaye, Kitinin, we have a Masorah, Ein Ani Ela B'Deya, that the person is not really considered poor if in a situation where they are lacking basic mental faculties. But Ma'arava Amrim, and in the West, Eretz Yisrael, what do they say? Dida Be, Kula Be. Okay, that's abbreviated, right? That he has this, he has everything. The low dabe, okay, and implying dea, okay. If he delo dabe, if he does not have this, implying again mental faculties, mabe, what does he have? As if to say, certainly he has nothing. Da kani machaser, okay. If he's able to acquire this mental faculties, what is he lacking? Da lo kani. If he is not able to acquire it, makani, what then does he acquire? Now, new piece. Amar Rabbi Alexandrai, Amar Rabbi Chia Ba'aba. Ein, back to issues of Bikur Cholim. Ein hachole omeid micholyo ad shemochlin lo kol al kol avonotav. Okay, he claims that a sick person receives their illness, okay, as a way of encouraging them to do tshuva, okay, and that therefore once they've done tshuva, that is how at that point they're able to better improve, get refuah. Okay, that's the point. Shnei Amar hasoleach lechol onchei harofei lechol tachalu aichi. Okay, from pasuk in Tehillim. Right. Okay, one who receives slicha, forgiveness from the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, in that case, then that they receive a healing for all of their illnesses. Rav Himnuna Amar, he says as follows: Choser liyamei alumav. That when we say the person is healed, it's like they go back to having youthful skin, young skin, things like that. Shnei Amar, again a pasuk, this from Eov. Rotpash b'saro menoar yeshuv liyamei alumav. Okay, again, healing as if he. Okay, and remember that skin ailments then were significant in terms of the society. B'chol mishkavo afachta b'chol yo. Okay, and again, citing the rest of the pasuk, another part. Amar Rav Yosef, says Rav Yosef, Lomar de mishkach limudo. What happens then is that when one is healed, it's possible that as a result of their illness, they will forget their learning. And when they're healed, ideally their learning comes back to them. Why is this important? Because we're going to see the Gemara goes on and tells us that specifically in regards to Rav Yosef, he suffered from a certain ailment and forgot a great deal of his learning. And Abaye had to, so to speak, repeat it back to him. Okay, let's go on. Rav Yosef Chalash. So the Gemara tells us the story now to understand the background. Rav Yosef had become sick. Iakar le limudei, and was completely uprooted from him his learning. In other words, he forgot a significant amount of what he was learning, of what he had learned. Ahadre Abai Kamai. Abai came and basically returned it back to him. In other words, he taught it back to Rav Yosef. Well, how do we know this? Hainu de bechol duchta amrinan. This is why in every place in the Shas, where it oftentimes makes reference to this, what is it telling us? Amar Rav Yosef, lo shamieli hada shemata. When Rav Yosef says that I had not learned this particular lesson, what? Amar le Abaye. Abaye responds to him in those situations, at amrita nihalan. You were the one who taught it to us, right? Umeha matnita amrita nihalan. And from this Mishnah, or this text, this we say, this is how you taught us to learn it. In other words, he repeated that. Now, the Gemara goes on and to tell us furthermore about the status of Rav Yosef when he forgot his learning, okay? And he was Abaye's Rebbe, what happens? Ki hava gamir Rebbe Tlat Esrei of Ape. Right. Okay, Ki hava gamir Rebbe, another example, another story. Okay, when Rebbe used to finish, what did he do? He would learn 13 I'm going to say examples, sections, versions of the Mishnah, right?
And when all the other
Okay, wait,
12
ho.
are
All right, Agmarei, the Rebbe Chia, and I'll teach it to Rebbe Chia, Shiva Mehen. And of the 13 versions of the Mishnah, in other words, remember, each school had some of its own versions of the Mishnah. Rabbi Chia had a school, others had a school, right? Rabbi Shaya. And so what happened, we're going to see in a moment. And the Rebbe learned all 13 these versions, and he taught 7 of them, okay, to Rebbe Chia. Lesof Chalash Rebbe. Towards the end of this process, Rebbe himself got sick. And what happened? Ahada Rebbe Chia Kame, right? Hinhu Shiva Ape the Agmarei. And he came back and then he retaught Rebbe 7 of the 13, 7 of the 13 that he.
Different words or?
what we call brises.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second.
That's what
Okay, we'll get to it in a second. Okay, so he taught him 7 of the 13 versions of Mishnayot. Okay, Shita Azdu Haba. It appeared then that the 6 others might have slipped away, might be lost. Okay, however, Hahu Katsra, there was a certain laundryman, Hava Shamiale, the Rebbe, Kedahava Garis Laho. But he would come to visit Rebbe. He would, every day, he would come and take care of Rebbe's laundry. And he would stand there and listen as Rebbe verbally, orally repeated these versions of the Mishnayos. Okay? And what did he learn? He learned those other 6, this laundryman. V'gamar yaton kami kitzra. And Rebbe was repeating these other 6 while the laundryman was present. And he learned them.
No. This is after Rebbe.
No,
Chia
this is
did-
the laundryman. Wait a second. Wait. All right. So Begaris Laho. Azar Rabbi Chia v'gamar yatim kame kitzra. So what happened? Rabbi Chia was made aware that the laundryman knew these other 6, and he went and he learned them by the laundryman. Okay? Va'ata v'ha'adar yatun kami Rebbe. He then went, Rabbi Chia, and then taught those other 6 to Rebbe, back those other 6. Because the laundryman was aware that Rebbe was sick. And in the situation, he had gone, and he was probably informed of that situation. If he was the personal launderer of Rebbe's clothes, okay?
I'm wondering why people trusted him.
Because everybody knew he knew it.
Okay, in other words, it's like, how can I give you, Ari, a good example? Okay, all right. In olden times, you used to have milk delivered to your house. All right. Okay. Well, for some of us, that's olden times. Okay. All right. And some people used to have a second refrigerator in their garage. Okay. And the milkman was trusted to the
Or an ice bucket.
ice box, whatever. And people knew the milkman well enough that he came and actually delivered that milk into their ice box. Okay, whatever. But I'm saying the point was the milkman was there almost every day. He knew where you kept the milk. He was trusted to come into whether it was the garage, the house, whatever. Okay, and that was common. That, right? That was
It's like
very,
the housekeeper knows everything about the
that
family.
was common. So in this case, you had the launderer who came every day to take care of Rebbe's clothes. Okay, and he could have just be, while he waited, he heard Rebbe verbally repeating it, so he knew that.
Makes sense.
All right, and it makes sense. Now, so what happens? So he taught that to Rebbe Chia, and Rebbe Chia then came and taught it back to Rebbe. Okay, now why is this important? Let's go on. Va'ata ha'adar yaton kami Rebbe, and therefore he taught it to Rebbe. Kad, right? Rabbi Chia did, right? Kad have chaze le Rebbe lahahu katra, and therefore, since when Rebbe would ever continue to see again the laundroman, all right, he would say to him, "Ata asita oti ve'et chia." Okay, you helped me, you strengthened me, you made me well. Okay, you and Chia.
You were responsible.
You were responsible for that. Okay? All right. So what happens? So the Gemara says, Ika da Amre, and there are others who say, Hachi ka amarle. This is what he said. Okay? Ata asita et Chia, v'Chia asa oti. You were responsible for teaching it to Chia and helping Chia, and Chia then was responsible to me. Art Scroll made a note there whether how do you show respect? Do you show respect to your teacher, or you have to show respect to your teacher's teacher? Things like that. Okay? But this is the point. Now we need to understand basically why did this Gemara specifically point out Rabbi Chia as the one who was the informant, okay, on the whole situation, because many of the Braitot, okay, in the Tosefta are indicated by Rabbi Chia, okay? Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Yoshaya were the two who were considered to be the editors of the Tosefta, okay? All right? And remember, the Tosefta is the collection of all those Braitot, those Tanaitic statements that Rebbe, for whatever reason, did not include in his edition of the Mishnah.
Is that what it says? Rabbi Loshina, the Priyaminayin? Is that?
Mhm. Okay, so what happens? We can get into a separate discussion afterwards, okay, but we'll go on with the Gemara. All right, Va'amar Rabbi, now we come back. Okay, Va'amar Rabbi Alexandrai, Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba. Okay, Gadol neis shene'asa lechola, yoter min haneis shene'asa lechananya, Mishael va'azariah. Okay, again, coming back to this, our theme of Bikur Cholim and the refuah of a sick person. Okay, citing greater is the miracle that can happen to a sick person than the miracle that occurred to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Remember, they were the three servants, stewards that Nebuchadnezzar had been told that they were not willing to bow to him or to a god, and he threw them into the furnace. Okay? So what happens? Shalachananya, Mishael, va'Azariah, that regarding the three of them, Eish shel Hedyat, okay, the furnace that they were put into was a fire that was established by a common human being. Okay? V'hakol yicholim lichbota, and therefore anyone also, another person could have put it out. Okay, v'zo shel chola, but the furnace, in other words, the fever. And again, I mentioned Talmudology yesterday had a blot on the topic of fever, if you're interested to look that up, okay, on the daf, right? V'zo shel chola, okay, shel shamayim, and the fever of heaven, okay, comes from heaven, okay? Umi yachol l'chbota, and who is able to, who would be able to overcome, extinguish that fever, okay? V'amar Rabbi, again, another statement. V'amar Rabbi Alexandria, amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba. V'amri la amar Rabbi Ribal, Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Kevan shehigia kitzo shel adam. At a point when a man reaches the end of his days, hakol moshlim bo. Okay, all I want to say acknowledge, pay attention. Shenema briut. V'haya kol motzei yahargeni, and we have the pasuk, okay, la briut, that we say that he said, "Whoever's going to find me will kill me." That refers to back to Sefer Bereshis, Kayin ve'Evel. Rav Amar says, Rav min hadin kra. No, you can learn this from the following pasuk. Lemishpatecha amdu hayom ki hakol avadecha. Okay, again that case. All right, Rav bar Shila Amrule. He said as follows: Shachiv gavra gavoha. He tells another story. Okay, that a
Super 12.
very tall man, okay, we're going to, had died, and this is the story behind what happened. Hava Rachiv Girdona Zutra. This tall man was riding on a small female donkey. And the reason that the detail is important is because in theory, the man should have been able to stand up, okay,
If the donkey.
if there was a problem with the donkey. Okay. Now what happens? Mata titura. Okay, they reached a bridge. Okay, istovit, and the donkey, the mule, became terrified or crazy. Okay, and what happened? Shade v'kashachiv. It threw the man off,
Into the
and
water.
as a result, okay, he died. Okay, drowned apparently and died. Kari ale nafshe, and therefore regarding his situation, it was said, the mishpatecha amdu hayom, that ultimately one reaches the day of their judgment, so to speak. Okay, a further story, giving the similar explanation. Shmuel chazye lahahu krakwita de akrava.
Relieve those two.
Okay, we can leave those two words, but I'm going to, we're going to see an understanding of the verse, okay, that it, where it says that you learn from this that ultimately a person comes to the day of their judgment.
When the time comes,
Okay,
there's nothing you can do.
and what happens is even things that we might not ordinarily consider bringing an end to a person may do so. Okay, and that's what we're going to see in this next anecdote, this next story from Agadah. Shmuel, so we saw an example that in a sense, this small female mule was the cause of was the vehicle which brought about the death of the person, okay? And therefore we're going to see a similar story, okay? All right, Shmuel Chaz Yahahu, and I'm going to include Kraukitita de Akra. He saw a certain scorpion, right? Yativ al Akrokita, and the scorpion was sitting on a frog, okay?
Across the river.
And they were crossing the river, okay? Va'avra Nahara, and they crossed the river, and what happened? Tarka Gavra Umiyit, and the scorpion then stung a person and the person died. Okay, Kari Ale, and therefore we applied the pasuk in that situation. Lemishpatecha amdu hayom.
You
Again,
wouldn't expect the scorpion to be able to get
across the river by its right. So in other words, even these two small, normally items, animals that one might not necessarily think, okay, could have caused the time of the judgment of this person. Nevertheless, this was the judgment, and this is how it was carried out, and that's why we applied the pasuk in this situation. Okay, Amar Shmuel, says Shmuel. Furthermore, since we cited him once, we cite him again in another situation. Right? Shmuel says, "Ein mevakrin et hacholeh ele lami shechalatzav chama." One does not visit a person, says Shmuel, unless they have a
That's what's wrong with it, it's a
significant fever. Okay? La'afuke mai, to exclude what? La'afuke hadatanya, to exclude that which was taught by Rabbi Yossi ben Prata, Omer Mishum Rabbi Eliezer, who says it in the name of Rabbi Eliezer, Ein mevakrin lo chole me'ayim, velo chole ha'ayim, velo mechushe harosh. One does not visit a person who, as I'm going to use the word suffering, from intestinal problems and not from eye problems, and not from headaches. All right? So the Gemara responds to this statement. Okay? Bishlema chole me'ayim. Certainly we understand this applies to somebody who's suffering intestinal issues. Why? Mishum kisufa, because of the embarrassment. Okay, having to excuse themselves continuously.
And also the flatulence.
The whole business. Okay? Okay. And it tells you, by the way, if we remember other Gemaras, that this was a problem that Rebbe himself had suffered from, and therefore was what?
Kahanim, because they ate so much meat.
Well, but the implication being that this was a fairly not uncommon situation. Okay? Another time afterwards, I'll tell you a separate story about Rebbe's house. I had a chance where they think he lived in the Galilee. Ele chole ha'ayin u'michush harosh ma'itama. But in regards to eye problems or headaches, what's the reasoning? Mishum de Rav Yehuda, in the name of Rav Yehuda, de Amar Rav Yehuda, who said, Dibura kashi la'ene, that extensive conversation is problematic for the eyes. All right? Uma'ale li'ishte. Okay? And it's going to increase one's fever.
The gra adds the word headaches.
Yeah? Okay. Amar Rava, says Rava, Hai ishta, this fever, regarding fever, ilo de parvanka, the malacha demuta, if it's not an agent of the angel of death, okay, ma'ale, all right, okay, what happens? It, chizra, right? It is like, it can be compared, he said, to the prickly thorns or the prickly things for a decal, for a palm tree. In other words, the same way the thorns prevent small animals from climbing up the palm tree and eating its fruit, so it could be that a fever likewise could have some beneficial impact. Okay, right? So what happens, says the Gemara? Chad letlatin yomi, okay, once in 30 days, okay, v'chi tiryake legufa, that it could be some sort of antidote to the body. Okay, how could a fever, all right, if you find you have a fever, it means you need to deal with that situation.
The higher body heat thwarts a certain
Could be,
bacterial growth.
could be. Okay, Art School again has some notes. on that as well. Okay, and it cites a book on Talmudic and the Mishnaic medicine by Preuss, right? Preuss.
Yeah.
Okay, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak.
Because today you do everything you can to bring people down.
Right. Right. Okay. All right. Lo he velo taraika. So Rav Nachman would agree with you, right? In the name of Bar, right? He says not it, and it's not an antidote either. Amar Rava Bar Yonatan, Amar Rav Yechiel, in the name of Rav Yechiel. Arson, okay? Yafeh l'chole l'refuatel. Good quality arson, which we're going to see, try and attempt to explain what that is beneficial for the sick person for their medication. Right? Well, we'll see. Mai arson, what are we talking about when we call this arson? Amar Rabbi Yonatan, he says it's as follows. Hushla de saire atike, it's hulled old barley, darish nafe, that at the beginning of its sifting process. Amar Abai, says Abai, and not disagreeing, but adding a further explanation. Bayan bishula, it needs extensive cooking. Ge'ain beisra de Torah, as does the meat from an ox. The same way ox meat, the stuff has to cook a long time. So this grits or whatever, okay, has to be cooked for a long time. Okay. Rav Yosef Amar, Rav Yosef gives us a slightly different explanation. Samide de Saire Yatika. No, it's the fine flour, okay, that comes from old
Cream of wheat.
okay, fat. Darish nafe, but it's done at the outset of the sifting process. Okay, so it could be the difference between cream of wheat and oatmeal. Okay, that would be the best example today that we could darshan. Amar Abai, and Abai's comment again clarifies, doesn't disagree. Bayin bishula kibasra de Torah. Again, it needs extensive cooking, just as the meat of an ox. Okay, going on. All right. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan. He's going to give another situation. Burdam, if a person has the illness of burdam, and I'm going to translate it in a moment, ein mevakrin. Okay, Art Scroll, I believe, doesn't give a contemporary explanation. It says bloody diarrhea, right, hemorrhoids. Okay, dysentery would be another contemporary explanation. Okay, but this is extreme. Okay, all right. You don't visit somebody then. Ve'ein maskirin shmo, and you don't even mention it to somebody. Okay, right? My tama. What's the reasoning? Amar Rebbe Elazar. Mipnei shehu k'ma'ayan hanoveya. Why? Because it's like a continuous flow. Continuous flow. V'amar Rebbe Eliezer, Rebbe Eliezer, lama nikra shmo burdam. Why is it given that name? Shehu k'ma'ayan hanoveya. Okay, bor dam. All right.
A pit of blood.
Pit of blood. It's ongoing. Right. Okay. So again, it highlights the fact that these were significant illnesses in those times. Okay. I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying. Okay. All right. We get now back to another part from our Mishnah. Umar pehu refuat hanefesh. Heichi katani. What are we teaching here? What does it mean? Ilema de refuat nefesh b'chinam. If you're saying it implies that one can cure the person for free. Refuat mamon b'sachar. But then are we implying that the curing by money, it means compensation? Litne, then our Mishnah should have taught it this way. Hachi mirpa'ayu b'chinam aval lo b'sachar. This then could be his refuah, his treatment for free and not by payment. In other words, spell it out clearly with less language. Ella rather, refuat nefesh gufo. But what we're talking about is the healing of his person, implying his body. Refuat mamon behemto. There we're talking about payment. There we're talking about his property, an animal or other aspects of his property. Amar Rav Zutra, says Rav Zutra, Batuvia Amar Rav, in the name of Rav. Aval Omerlo, but you can say to him, in other words, even if you made a neder not to benefit from the person who is suffering, or that person made a neder not to benefit from the visitor, okay? Samploni yafela, samploni rala. Okay, this medication is good for it. This medication is not good for it. Okay, now we come back to our new Mishnah. And remember, the whole series of previous Mishnayot were teaching us specific examples as to what situations a person could still act on behalf of another if one or the other made a neder not to benefit from the other person. Okay, so the Mishnah now continues with further examples in that venue. Okay, v'rochetz imo ba'ambate getola. Okay, he could wash with him in a large pool. Okay, avalo b'ktana, and not in a small pool. Okay. Furthermore, vayishan imo b'mita, and he may sleep with him even in the same bed. Why they would want to do it, I don't know. Okay.
There weren't that many beds, and they needed. Well, you'll see.
We'll see. Let's see as the Gemara is going to go on to clarify. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, continuing in the Mishnah, clarification, and not necessarily disagreeing with Tanakama. Biyamot hachama. What they're talking about is in the summertime,
where the heat is not beneficial.
Okay, avalo biyamot hagishamim, but we're not talking about the rainy season, the winter. Neshahu mehanho, because there, if you have multiple people in the bed, you're going to warm up, and therefore that is gaining benefit. Umesav imo al hamita. Okay, he can recline, I'm going to say, or lean with him on the same mita, but here I'm not translating it as bed, but I'm going to translate it as divan or couch. Okay, remember they used to eat on like lounge chairs or divans. Okay, all right. V'ochel imo al hashulchan. That's why it's connected with the next statement, and they can use the same table. Okay, avalo min hatamchui, but not from the same serving bowl or platter. Okay, aval ochel hu imo min hatamchui hachozer, but he may eat from the same serving bowl or platter on its return trip. Okay, when it's been brought back and coming back with seconds. Exactly. Okay, Gemara continues. Tanya, and a Braita teaches, Lo yerchotzimo ba'ambati. But we have a Braita that teaches that he should not wash with him in the same pool. V'lo yishanimo b'mita, and he should not sleep with him in the same bed. Bein gedola, bein katana, regardless if it's a larger one or a small one. Divrei Rabbi Meir. That's the view of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, says Rabbi Yehuda, Gedola b'yamot hageshamim. We're talking about a large bed during the winter months. Uktana b'yamot hachama, and a smaller bed when we're talking about the summer, warmer weather.
This disagrees with Rabbi Yehuda.
So here, this is right. There, that seems to disagree with the Plugta Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yehuda, right? But let's see if the Gemara addresses it. Okay, Mutar rochetz imo ba'ambate gedola. It's permitted to wash with him in a large pool. Umazia imo b'ktana, and to schwitz with him in a small pool, in a small sauna, right? Aval mesav imo alamita, but to recline with him on a bed or on a divan, va'ochel imo al shulchan, and to eat with him on using the same table. Aval lo min hatamchui, but not from the same serving bowl or platter. Aval ochel imo min hatamchui hachozer, but he may eat with him from the serving bowl or platter that's bringing seconds. Okay, what happens? Amar Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina min hatamchui hachozer lebal habayit. But we're only but we're only talking about the fact that when they bring it, let's say, to the owner of the household, you bring it into the kitchen to get the seconds, and then you bring it back out from the kitchen back to the assemblage. Then they could eat from the same.
It's not like
community
the guy
serving bowl.
passing it to.
Exactly. Okay. New Mishnah. Okay. Matnitin lo yochal imo min ha'avus. He cannot eat from him again from a kind of serving tray. Okay. This is more of a liquid. This would where they would serve
Animals.
A tureen.
a tureen,
Tureen.
right? A soup tureen might
Right.
be a good example. Thank you. Okay.
Lefnei poalim, which is what is used
Okay.
to serve.
Shlifnei hapoalim, before the workers or the servants. V'lo ya'aseh imo ba'omein. And not only that, but he can't work with them in the same row in the vineyard. Divrei Rabbi Meir. That's the view of Rabbi Meir. The Chachamim omrim, but the sages say, oseh, that he can do it, v'hu berachok mimenu. But this is so long as there is some distance between them. In other words, one may work in one row, one might work in another row. Okay, and I think we'll. No, we can go. We can finish the Gemara. Bekarov lo plige da'asir. When they're close, they don't disagree. Ki pligi, where do they disagree? Berachok, when there's some distance between them. Why? Rabbi Meir savar gazrinin rachok mishum karo. Rabbi Meir is of the opinion we make a decree regarding distance, lest they could become close to one another.
Where do you draw the line?
Right? Deka marfe la arakame. Because what is he doing? He is still softening up the ground where the other might work, and therefore, if he made a neder against him, he would still be benefiting him. Okay? V'Rabbanan savre lo gazrina. But the rabbis hold we don't make such a decree, and we'll pick up tomorrow, Membet, the new Mishnah.
Everybody stay in put for a minute.
Okay, if Reuven would like to do Rabbanan Kaddish, please.
If the door before having the Lord made the teacher believe the Elam will come the host of the Russia.
Memory. So I didn't look inside and I go,
There'll be no Kiru
and there is no Guru Meshite.
There'll be no Kiru Meshite in this world. Let me tell you a story. Old borough. So they became closest friends to everybody up there. And then the Ashton was here. And the outside, they would go together to the people, and the buses would make a big peak. And on the buses, yard side, they would go to Bethel, and the Ashkenaz guy would make a big peak. So I said, "But how did you guys daven?" He says, "That's fine." He said, "It's very easy. When I got to the I just whispered it." So I said to the Ashkenaz, "But what did you do in the shtibur?" He says, "I said the Yatzmachakune out loud, but then I said to myself quietly, but not so fast."
Whatever, I'll meet you by the front door, okay? Over here. Hi, Robert. Good morning, good morning. Amy, Harry Meltzer did the shopping this week for the lunch and learn. So these are his, both of his roles. Yeah. What? We had between 60 and 70 people last night, spoke very well. He got a lot of response in terms of that people had stuff and things. They were very pleased, I think. We'll talk some more later today.
How many of us used to buy tea and coffee? We always have that.
Really? We were told, we have to pay all of that. All right,
But then I will buy it.
I don't know. But I wouldn't, no, if that's the case, that's great.
It's such a minimal.
I know. Yeah, I gotta
I
run.
know, I mean, it's a cookie. How am I gonna I can't, their number keeps going to busy signal. I emailed them and I haven't heard back.
I don't know. I'll look at it when I get home later today. I'll look to see if I have another number. Okay. Unfortunately, I would have too many hats. Well, sometimes, it's one thing to be here on a fairly regular basis, but I'm still partly the here. That takes up a quarter. And normally I teach a shiur every week during the season. But this year things are a little different because I decided I wasn't going to do a weekly shiur because we had two causes who last Rabbi. So I switched myself to that. Okay. Going to yes, right? Yes. Yeah.